I'm Bob Henderson. I'm the Nomad Dad, and I've been asked by the production staff at Nomad Capitalist to talk to you about our daily life in Mexico, where we live part of the year. Our daily life here versus the United States. Frankly, I don't notice a lot of difference other than the fact that I hear a language here that I do not hear in the States, that being Spanish. I know a little Spanish, poquito español, meaning a little. But you can get by here in some of these towns with very little Spanish. There's hand signals, you know a few words, you can get by. But what are we doing in Mexico? We have a condo. And we're in a condo association. Ours happens to be 30 different units. Everybody here is English speaking. The vast majority are from the US or Canada, a couple from Europe. And we operate it much like it would be operated back in the States. The HOA and the things we do socially, the things that we do on a daily basis. Me, I'm a coffeeholic. So I try to seek out coffee places here in town. And frankly, I have a lot more options that in the small town that we live in, Ajijic, on Lake Chapala. I have more options here than I have in some of the small towns back in the States where we've lived. I like to try the different coffees. I've got a couple of places where I love the coffee. And it's also this is where I meet all the people that I meet. Obviously, they're going to be expats, and there's some fascinating people here. I've met somebody recently from Moscow, somebody from Hamburg, Germany. Both of them then lived in Canada for a while before they came down here. I meet all kinds of U.S. citizens and Canadians, and we all kind of band together, I think, because we are outnumbered by the locals. I think the social life here is as vibrant as it could possibly be back in the States. In this little town of about 12,000 or so people, there are 3 live theaters. I've actually been in a couple of productions at those theaters, and there's some tremendously talented people here. I don't know how I got cast, but some tremendously talented people. But how many towns in the U.S. have 3 live theaters? You're going to find that in the big cities, certainly. At least some live theaters, but I think that's amazing. What about food? Well, here, I don't know, there's dozens of restaurants, but probably a good 40 or 50 that are very good. They serve typically gringo food. They might have a Mexican dish or two. Most of the Mexican food that you buy here would be street food. I am a little reluctant to buy street food, so I haven't to this point, but the people I talk to are very happy with it. Sure smells good when you walk by. So these are some of the things. I mean, we've got, I think it's 2 markets a week, like farmers markets that we go to and get produce. So we don't have to necessarily go to a store, but there are several grocery stores. There is a Walmart in town. If we drive about 45 minutes over to Guadalajara, the biggest city that's nearby where the airport is that we fly into, there's a Costco, packed, just like in the States or Canada. There's a Home Depot, and frankly, it's the nicest looking Home Depot I've ever seen over in Guadalajara, and we buy things for the home there. So it really doesn't seem, although we're in Mexico, and granted, Ajijic is a little softer landing than some other Mexican places, but it's still Mexico. It does not seem all that different from the U.S. And speaking of Mexico, the Nomad Mom sometimes puts things in an interesting way. She says, quote, and she's right, quote, Mexico is not for wimps. There are some challenges that you need to overcome. It's a little bit different, but it's a wonderful experience. And I just really do not see a tremendous difference from here to the U.S. We have a local driver to take us to the airport and back. And before we bought a small vehicle to get around town, we could take the bus, we could take, this driver, and it's just incredibly inexpensive. As far as connectivity is concerned, I know everybody that goes somewhere. I know Andrew talks about going to such and so city or country, And I'll always hear, well, the internet was too slow. Well, I've got 50 megabytes here, and I pay, you'll never believe, for internet and a landline, which I don't need, but is used for people that are coming in the gate here in the gated community to call me. It's $20 a month for my internet and my landline. Of course, I have a cell phone that I make most of my calls on. So 50 megabytes. I mean, the connections are just fine. Now, granted, once in a while, the electricity's out. And so that's going to affect the internet, but you can go to your phone and use it, right? So there are no connectivity issues as far as I'm concerned. I have an IT guy that was referred to me here that helps me with any problems I have. We can watch all kinds of programs, get a VPN, you can stream your Hulu and your Netflix here and that sort of thing. So I don't see a big difference here in Mexico. We have spent considerable time. I remember a few years ago in Budapest, Hungary. I didn't feel that much different about Budapest vis-a-vis the U.S. The language barrier was a little bigger than it is here in Mexico. But to answer the question, I don't see a big difference. And I think I probably have more acquaintances and friends here than I do in any of the places that we've lived in the States. And you could be entertained every night. Bands at bars playing songs mostly from the 70s, 80s, or 90s. I suppose there might be somewhere for hip hop, but that'd probably be over in Guadalajara. All kinds of theater productions, all kinds of other shows that are done, comedy troupes that are done locally, all kinds of entertainment, golf and tennis. You could keep busy every single night of the week if that's what you want to do, or during the day with all the activities. Some of them specifically directed at those of us who are expats. So that's my answer. It's really not that much different from, quote unquote, home in the U.S. And I'm not sure what I consider home, but the more I'm here, the more I consider this home. I'm Bob Henderson. Hope I cleared a couple of things up for you. I'm the Nomad Dad.